Jura, I have just one question. Exactly what are we? A reasonable question, but ultimately it doesn't matter. It's like growing pains, which arise from the manifestation of your ego. Worrying about such things is pointless. What you ought to do is what's important. Your instinct will reveal that to you, who your target is. And that, Tidari, will lead to the formation of your identity. It's curious, this world. The more knowledge I acquire, the more questions arise, and the more things I do not know. Hey, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be talking about Jura, and we have a lot to go over in this video. We're going to be addressing his character, why he wanted to eat Naruto, his fascination with the Hidden Leaf Village, what his future character arc will look like, how powerful he may be, and we'll also take a detailed look into Kashin Koji's plan on taking Jura down for good. This video will contain spoilers for the manga. You have been warned. With that being said, let's get started. Jura, without a doubt, is the strongest character we have ever seen in this franchise. And why is that the case? Because he is the personification of the Ten Tails given intelligence and his own unique personality. The Ten Tails is described as an entity with nearly infinite chakra and power, so having that power concentrated into an intelligent humanoid body with a lot of mobility is more deadly than one might initially think at face value. Jura's identity was confirmed in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex chapter 14. Jura is different from the other Shinju because he is a direct incarnation of the Ten Tails, unlike the other Shinju which have received their forms and chakra from claw grind victims. Jura is in the final state which the Ten Tails has taken, which is to evolve into a divine tree. But then there's also that unnatural factor. He is a divine tree given personality and a human-like form thanks to Code's modifications with his claw marks. Although Jura's version of the Ten Tails does not appear in the original Naruto series, we can still look at that series to analyze Kaguya's Ten Tails to gain a decent understanding on the power the Ten Tails has overall. Naruto chapter 610 was the first ever appearance of the Ten Tails in the franchise. The Ten Tails manifested itself because Obito and Madara gave the Geto Mazo statue enough Biju chakra for it to actually come into existence, including pieces of the 8 Tails and 9 Tails chakra. Kurama in chapter 610 actually gives a decent amount of information on what the Ten Tails actually is and what it's composed of. So the Ten Tails in its base form has no kind of emotions or feelings. It is a mindless creature with the sole purpose of eating an Otsutsuki, creating a divine tree to suck up all the chakra from the planet and create a chakra fruit. Kurama describes the Ten Tails being something composed of nature energy itself that circulates all around the world from different natural resources such as water, soil, and air. Naruto wanted to get an assessment of the immediate threat of the Ten Tails at the time, and so he decided to switch from his Biju chakra mode and entered his Toad Sage mode. He wanted to measure how strong the Ten Tails actually was. Sage mode allows Naruto to sense chakra from individuals in the area closest to him, and Naruto soon came to realize that doing so was pointless because he saw how immeasurable the amount of power the Ten Tails possessed really was. It was nearly infinite chakra. Jura would be in the same league considering his original Ten Tails form should be composed of very similar properties to this Kaguya Ten Tails. Although Jura is the most powerful of the Shinju, they all have access to the same base abilities and benefits. Jura and the other Shinju's bodies are embedded with Code's claw marks. Because Code used his claw mark Shinjutsu to break the Ten Tails apart, the Ten Tails ended up taking that power for itself. So all of the Shinju can generate claw marks and move through each other and different places on the battlefield, making it difficult for them to be detected in combat. Jura, just like the other Shinju, also has a near immortal body. The Shinju can easily recover from their wounds by slipping into the dimension holding the failed divine tree branches and use those branches to fix up their bodies. Unless Jura is completely destroyed and his Thorn Soul Bulb is captured, he and the other Shinju can theoretically come back an infinite number of times. Jura has actually engaged in combat in a few chapters in 2 Blue Vortex so far, And while we haven't seen everything he is truly capable of, we have a good understanding of Jura's fighting style at the very least. Naturally, being the direct incarnation of the Ten Tails, Jura favors the Bijou Bomb. Jura uses it a bit differently from the other Bijou in the series and Jinchuriki from the past. He tends to generate Bijou Bombs from his eyes. So anything within Jura's sight can be obliterated without a second thought. Jura can also alter the intensity of his Bijou Bomb attacks. For example, he generated just a small amount of chakra to decapitate Code's hand and part of his arm in 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 15. Jura also concentrated a Bijou Bomb into a small beam to shoot out at Boruto in 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 12. He did this for 2 reasons. One, he wanted to take away Hidari's Thorn Soul Bulb from Boruto without harming it. And 2, he wanted to stop Boruto from escaping because, of course, Boruto has the Flying Raijin. Boruto was also not in front of Jura when this happened, meaning that Jura was in a completely different area from Boruto at this time. Yet it was still possible for Jura to attack Boruto from that far away. Once Hidari's Thorn Soul Bulb was safe, Jura planned on wiping out Boruto and everyone else around him at that time with a second Bijou Bomb at a much greater intensity. What stopped Jura was the fact that Mamushi showed up and Jura gained new intel that Boruto was not working alone. He has an accomplice. This made Jura leave to find out who this mystery person was and of course revive his ally Hidari. Taijutsu, or basic close combat against Jura, is also very risky and dangerous because Jura is freakishly strong. He easily was able to beat up Kawaki with his Karma Seal activated, and he twisted Himawari's leg without breaking a sweat. The only way to engage in direct combat with Jura and get it to work is to, 1, be faster than him, and pray he doesn't actually get the chance to grab you, punch you, or kick you, and 2, somehow avoid his sight because you don't want to get shot with a Bijou Bomb. But even if Jura cannot make physical contact with you, he has another deadly ability in the form of his wood style. A pattern I've noticed is that Jura tends to impale people with his wood style tree branches if he doesn't deem them worthy of his time. He did this to the Hidden Leaf Shinobi in 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 8, and he also did that to Inojin a few chapters later when he was trying to defend Himawari. Jura and the other Shinju also have another technique called Devour. Devour is where the divine tree grabs a victim with one of its branches, detains that victim, and then sucks out their chakra, killing them in the process. The Shinju want to do this to non-Otsutsuki characters in their own twisted way of gaining a better understanding of themselves as individuals. This is also what Kashin Koji and Boruto are actively trying to prevent, because of course, if they consume Kawaki, then this will happen on a mass scale, leading to the death of everyone, the worst possible future. Now that we've assessed some of Jura's combat abilities, it makes perfect sense why Kashin Koji told Shikamaru in 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 16 to never provoke Jura. If Jura is truly angered, then there is no chance of winning against him. Absolutely none. Jura could likely shoot out Bijou Bombs the size of a planet itself and wipe out everyone like it's nothing. Jura could also shoot out multiple mini Bijou Bombs and wipe out entire villages without ever having to step out of his lair. It's truly disturbing. Okay, so we've addressed Jura's capabilities as a fighter. Let's now look into Jura's goals and even his connection to certain characters in the series. Chapter 4 is the first appearance of Jura and the other Shinju. Jura's first dialogue in the series was expressing the role of divine trees. In Jura's own words, he says, "Chakra, all life on a planet, current as well as past and long dead. We divine trees exist to suck the chakra out of living things to form a chakra fruit. At least that was our original instinct. But Code, we have appeared to evolve quite a bit thanks to you awakening self-awareness in us. Because Code gave them self-awareness and the ability to think independently, they are diverging from that original plan." Chapter 8 shows a perfect example of this. Jura could have won very early in the timeline. He could have devoured Kawaki and achieved his goal right then and there. There was nothing Kawaki or anyone else could have done to stop him. Granted, Kashin Koji would have saw this potential future with prescience and told Boruto to get Kawaki out of there and escape. But the fact that Koji didn't bother meant that he knew Jura's goals were diverging more and more. Jura has a golden opportunity with his new life. For the first time in his life, he has free will, and he wants to explore all possible avenues he can take. Jura in Two Blue Vortex Chapter 5 verbally expressed his interest in devouring Naruto Uzumaki. The other Shinju were confused by this. Why would he want to eat Naruto? It's not like he's an Otsutsuki or anything. But it's like Jura said in his dialogue with Hidari earlier in this video. Jura has his own philosophy for how individuals can find out who they truly are. One must follow their own instinct. This just happened to lead him to Naruto. But his thinking is flawed, however. Jura is still thinking like a beast. A predator acts on instinct to get prey because of that lack of intelligence, but also a driving force inside of them to survive. Instinct alone is not enough to determine who one truly is. Life experience and individuals' own personalities are also key factors that shape who that individual is or will become. At face value, it would make sense why Jura would want to devour Naruto. Naruto is the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, and the Nine-Tails chakra is derived from another Ten-Tails. So why not consume a chakra that's similar to his own? Since the very purpose of divine trees anyway is to consume chakra from everywhere. But what if I told you the reason why Jura originally wanted to devour Naruto had a deeper meaning? What if I told you that the basis for the direction of Jura's goals was set up all the way back as early as chapter 35 and 36 of Boruto Part 1? At the end of chapter 35, Sasuke was sent by the Anbu Black Ops Division to investigate a dimension which coordinates contained the location of the Ten-Tails and the existence of Ishiki Otsutsuki. This was information that was leaked by Amato. As Sasuke explored the dimension, he approached an isolated area and discovered a Biju was pinned down by chakra rods. This was the original form of Jura when he was a lesser being. The anime and manga handled this scene slightly differently. In Boruto episode 202, the Ten-Tails awakens from its slumber, and it looks at Sasuke, starts roaring, and then attempts to try to eat Sasuke, despite being pinned down by chakra rods. Which in hindsight was foreshadowing for Sasuke being eaten later on by a claw grime. And it also foreshadowed Jura's desire to want to eat a non-Otsutsuki character 3 years later. The manga is a little bit different. The Ten-Tails sees Sasuke, but in this version of events, he doesn't try to eat him, but roars in a rampage. It seems like in the manga version, the Ten-Tails was intelligent enough to distinguish a non-Otsutsuki from an Otsutsuki character. The Ten-Tails in this version seems angry and wants to be freed from the clutches of Jigen, even though it can't express that with words. I wouldn't be surprised if this is why Jura and Hidari are working so closely together. This could be a direct result of Sasuke's interaction with the Ten-Tails several years prior. Sasuke was likely the first living being, aside from Jigen of course, that the Ten-Tails saw in centuries. And Hidari's manifestation is a direct result of Sasuke's chakra. And maybe this explains why Jura has particular favor for Hidari. Hidari also looks to Jura for guidance for how to live his own life, which not only boosts Jura's ego, but also reverses their roles in a strange way. Sasuke was the one who was free and intelligent, while the Ten-Tails was pinned down and locked away. Now Jura is free while Sasuke is stuck in a tree, and Hidari is basically Jura's direct follower. In the anime and manga version of the story, the Ten-Tails looks at Jigen and immediately tries to eat him. Jigen understood that the Ten-Tails wanted to fulfill its purpose of eating an Otsutsuki, but it was too soon in Jigen's eyes since he didn't have his perfect vessel yet. Ishiki in Jigen's body proceeds to take chakra from the Ten-Tails. He knew he would likely have to fight Naruto, so he wanted Jigen's body to have enough power to be ready for that encounter once he made his way to the Hidden Leaf Village to take back Kawaki. So you have to think about this. Naruto never engaged Jigen in combat at his regular strength. Naruto in his Nine Tails Bijou state fought a version of Jigen that was holding chakra from the Ten Tails. And we know that chakra connects everything and everyone together, especially when it comes to Bijou. I believe that the Ten Tails felt the Nine Tails chakra coming from Naruto all the way back then, and Jura just happened to remember that once he gained intelligence. Jura must have taken an interest and fascination in Naruto and the Nine Tails dynamic. I'll use Kurama himself as an example. For most of the Naruto series, he was split into two beings. Naruto had one half of Kurama, and Minato died with the second half. When Minato came back as a reanimation, the other half of Kurama also manifested again. You would think that these Kuramas would behave completely differently because the one Minato had didn't go through the same life experiences as Naruto's half of Kurama did. But later in the war, Naruto would lose his half of Kurama, and then he gained the other half to save his life. And before his final clash with Sasuke, Naruto interacted with the other half of Kurama like he was the same person and like it was as if they spent years together, which was not true. But because both Kuramas worked together during the war and their chakra made contact with each other, that gave Minato's half of Kurama the opportunity to catch up in terms of memories with the half of Naruto's Kurama. I think Jura being an incarnation of a Bijou is connected to Kurama's chakra, and he saw Kurama's story and admired it. Kurama was a piece of a mindless beast originally, intent on creating a divine tree. And Jura is a divine tree who was originally a mindless beast at one point. They're both cut from the same cloth. Yet through befriending Naruto, Kurama shifted from being a demon fox hated by all into a partner and ally of a member of the Hidden Leaf Village. Kurama became a hero and grew as an individual, especially during the later years of Naruto's life. Kurama before the 4th Great Shinobi War would have never used something like Baryon mode to save Naruto and the entire world. But he changed due to his friendship with Naruto, because unlike everyone else, Naruto was the first person since the Sage of Six Paths to treat him as a person and not as an object of power. There are various examples of all Bijou being connected in a spiritual sense. During Kurama's death in the anime, all the other Bijou sensed his passing. Of course, Jura was a mindless beast at the time, so interpreting something like that wouldn't make sense. But Kurama in the 4th Great Shinobi War also argued with the Eight Tails briefly when Naruto and the others were fighting Obito against the reincarnated Bijou. So they all have that connection. But like I just said, Jura would have no idea that Naruto and Kurama were not together anymore. Because the last time Jura must have sensed that these two were together was in chapter 38 of part 1. This was the chapter where Naruto and Sasuke lost to Jigen, who mind you was still using that Ten Tails chakra. Jigen did not kill Naruto in the chapter. Kurama himself even manifested through Naruto and told him not to provoke Jigen. Jigen had no reason to kill Naruto, and Kurama said basically don't give him a reason to change his mind. Jigen actually heard Kurama as well and agreed and decided to seal Naruto away. So it's likely from Jura's perception 3 years later, Naruto still had the Nine Tails just because of this interaction. So you can imagine Jura's shock when he realized that it wasn't Naruto that had the Nine Tails chakra signature, but instead it was Himawari. Jura had outdated information, and it's clear he did not get this information on Naruto through reading up on current history and events, because he would have discovered this very public information on Naruto being assassinated by Boruto Otsutsuki, and he would have realized that his goal was now impossible. He must have gotten that information through his memories as the Ten Tails watching Naruto's fight with Jigen. Jura naturally was still after Kurama despite Kurama having a different Jinchuriki. But it would make you wonder if his intent was still deeper than we originally thought. Jura's reason for wanting Kurama has to do with the fact that he wants to understand himself better and evolve in a way similar to what Kurama went through in the original Naruto series. And it can't just simply be for the chakra itself. Ask yourself this: If Jura truly wanted to consume chakra similar to his own, why didn't he explore his other options? Killer Bee is the only other living Jinchuriki in the Hidden Cloud Village. The Eight Tails also grew in character thanks to his own friendship with Killer Bee. Then there's Shukaku, who is basically within the Hidden Sand Village, or at least in a safe house within the Land of Wind. An area where I might add Matsuri and Ryu currently are at in the recent chapters of Two Blue Vortex. So why not pay Shukaku a visit if all he wanted was the chakra? We also have to consider the other Biju that are spread out across the world. If Jura was greedy for chakra similar to his own, why not pay them a visit and take their chakra for himself? And he would have multiple different targets to acquire more chakra. In Naruto chapter 629, Kaguya's Ten Tails was able to sense chakra from multiple Biju within Naruto at the time. Even though it lacked intelligence, it was smart enough to recognize that similar chakra signature and became agitated because of the fact that it believed that that chakra belonged to it instead of Naruto. So that's even more of a reason why Jura wanting to eat Kurama has to be for a more significant purpose. If Jura wanted Biju chakra, then again, he had other options. And out of all the villages, why is Jura so fascinated with the Hidden Leaf's culture? If he just came into existence, why would he even care? It's even to the point where he would actually avoid doing combat within the village because he doesn't want to destroy anything. That's very unusual for a newborn character. I believe that this is a direct result of what Jura witnessed through Kurama. Kurama saw everything from within Naruto and has been part of his life for over 3 decades. Jura's admiration for the Leaf must be from that connection through Kurama, because the Leaf Village shaped and molded both Naruto and was a direct influence on Kurama's character as well. The public's perception of Kurama also changed drastically within the Boruto era. The Nine Tails was a beast that was hated and feared by all because of what Obito did the day Naruto was born. But Kurama quite literally became a war hero, and by the ending of chapter 700 of the original Naruto series, it explains that Kurama and Naruto became one and sealed the original Ten Tails away. That was the legend that was set out for these two. If you go back to Boruto episode 89, Kurama and the other Biju are clearly being well received to the public, to the point where there were actually toys created after them. So something like this, you could imagine that this would fascinate Jura being another Biju. So while Jura's primary goal is evolution of himself, his secondary goals still exist, which was what he was originally created for. And this was revealed within his dialogue with Code in Two Blue Vortex chapter 15. Jura wants to eat the chakra fruit for himself, and with multiple other Shinju around him, it's actually possible for him to do so. Because he is an incarnation of a Biju himself, it is unknown how he would evolve, like would he become an Otsutsuki or not, but the thought is still disturbing. And of course, since this goal exists in Jura's mind, that means the worst possible future is still on track for actually occurring in the Boruto story. Boruto makes it very clear in Two Blue Vortex chapter 14 what needs to be done. Jura has to be defeated. There's no way around it. If Jura is gone, then the worst possible future or darkest timeline cannot happen. Boruto and Kashin Koji's goal is quite simple. They need to damage Jura's body enough to a point where he can release a Thorn Soul Bulb. This is the object that they will not only use to free the Claw Grime victims, but also get rid of the remaining Shinju and Claw Grime as well. They would also need Jura's Thorn Soul Bulb to ensure that he can never be revived. As long as a Shinju's Thorn Soul Bulb exists, they always have the potential to come back to life. If the bulb rots or is exposed to the tree containing a specific Claw Grime victim, however, they'll disappear forever. That's why in chapter 12 of Two Blue Vortex, Jura wanted to kill Boruto. Boruto knew too much. Boruto knows how to permanently kill his kind, making him shift from a minor annoyance to a legitimate threat. Kawaki alone in Jura's mind would be a perfect sacrifice for the chakra fruits. I believe Kashin Koji's ideal way for getting rid of Jura for good is to have Boruto use the Thorn Soul Bulb and revert Jura back to the state we saw him in Two Blue Vortex chapter 3, when he was the Ten Tails himself, a dumb, mindless creature that cannot use its maximum power effectively. And we're already starting to see phase 1 of Kashin Koji's plan go into motion, and that's to split up the Shinju. He's going for a divide and conquer approach. Boruto and Koji are targets that Jura and his forces are actively hunting down because of their knowledge of the Thorn Soul bulbs. So actively, they're going to split up and try to find their own specific clues on how to find these two. If you go back to Two Blue Vortex Chapter 4, with the exception of Jura, Boruto engaged in battle with the other Shinju at the time. While he was holding his own against Hidari, Mamushi, and Matsuri, he ultimately was overwhelmed fighting 3 opponents relative to his own strength at the same time. If the Shinju stay together, they'll be a lot more difficult to deal with, especially with their claw marks allowing them to move in very unorthodox and unpredictable ways. And we're actually seeing Phase 2 be conducted in the most recent chapters of the series. Chapters 18 through 20 of Two Blue Vortex to be specific. So after the Shinju split up to conduct their investigation of Boruto's whereabouts, Koji managed to influence Shikamaru to send specific shinobi to kill specific Shinju to capture their Thorn Soul bulbs. Konohamaru was sent to deal with Matsuri to mess with her head in particular. Team 7 and Team Shiki both had direct counters to Ryu's Iron Sand, Areya's Lodestone, and Sarada's Mangekyo Sharingan. So in Koji's mind, if Areya failed in a possible future, which actually did happen in the story, Koji's backup plan was a guarantee to keep the probability of their success high in using Sarada's Mangekyo abilities. It's like I said earlier in the video, Jura's philosophy is incorrect because perception and life experiences are what shape a character, not just instinct. Which leads me to phase 3 of Koji's plan for taking Jura down. I believe Koji is betting on the other Shinju's emotional reactions to affect Jura and make him a lot weaker mentally. If Jura is not focused or is emotionally overwhelmed like Matsuri was in the most recent chapters, that will make it that much easier to take him out. Jura is linked to the other Shinju because they all come from the same entity, which is Jura's past incarnation as the original Ten Tails. They are the same person, but they have diverged in terms of personality due to the divine tree stealing chakra from claw grind victims and altering their personalities and form. I wouldn't be surprised if Koji set up Jura and the other Shinju to learn about the concept of love to make it that much harder for them to remain calm and focused. The more they try to resist love, the harder it will be for them to do so. Hidari, for example, may have been interested in devouring Sarada, but how would he react if he ran into Sakura? I'd imagine it wouldn't be easy for him to deal with her because of Sasuke's influence heavily being over him. I believe once all of the other Shinju are wiped out, phase 4 of Koji's plan will execute. I think Koji is going to send Himawari away from the Leaf Village. Think about it. If Jura sees that she's away from the village, then naturally he will go after her just like he did in Two Blue Vortex chapters 9 through 11. But of course, this will be according to plan. So once that happens, I could see Koji sending out his allies to attack Jura at once he's lured out by Himawari. Kawaki can shrink Jura's claw marks, making it difficult for him to travel across the battlefield. Kawaki could also use Hikuna Hikona to shrink Jura's branches. So this would make the devour process very difficult for Jura to actually pull off. Sarada has a space-time ninjutsu with her Mangekyo Sharingan. So even if Jura shoots out Biju bombs at all of her allies, regardless of the intensity, she should be able to suck it up into the void. Since Ada is working with Kashin Koji, I don't see why she wouldn't allow Damon to assist in this battle. And his reflectability would give Jura a difficult time as well. Although I highly doubt this will be enough to finish Jura off by himself, because if this was the case, Koji would have been sent Damon out to deal with Jura way earlier in the timeline. And Boruto is definitely a key part in Kashin Koji's final phase of this plan. Something that I have always questioned was why did Koji choose to make Boruto a singularity over Kawaki in Two Blue Vortex Chapter 13's flashbacks? So Koji took a gamble. Because of prescience, he knew of the possibility of Boruto and Kawaki switching places, but he wasn't 100% sure if he was dealing with Ishiki's vessel or Momoshiki's vessel. He just happened to luck out and realize that Boruto was the true son of Naruto. At face value, it would appear as though Koji didn't really care which Otsutsuki he recruited, because a rogue ninja doesn't interact with a lot of people, so ideally that's the better candidate to choose as a singularity. And that's because they won't tell a lot of people, so the timeline will be more seamless to manipulate. However, Two Blue Vortex chapter 17 proves that this is not the case. There was a brief scene in the chapter where Kashin Koji tells Boruto that he is the one thing we cannot lose. Jura has no intent on devouring Boruto, so there will likely never be a scenario anymore where Jura creates a chakra fruit using Boruto's body. Kawaki is enough in Jura's mind. So if this is the case, Boruto directly engaging in battle with the Shinju right now shouldn't be a problem, right? Even if he dies, Koji could theoretically just use Kawaki in the same role that he used Boruto. So what's the big deal, right? But we know it's not that simple. Koji recruited Boruto for a specific purpose, and that's to have Boruto be the one who can specifically destroy Jura's body and release the Thorn Soul Bulb. I believe Kashin Koji used prescience to teach Boruto a jutsu powerful enough to take Jura down for good. And you're probably thinking right now, that can't be right. If Boruto has something that can kill Jura, why hasn't he already used it? Why has he been hiding and avoiding Jura at this point? And I'll explain that reason shortly. But I really want you to think about it. Koji has seen many different possible futures that the Boruto series could have taken or possibly could still occur. We only saw a little bit of those alternate possible futures in Chapter 13's flashback, and most of that was from Boruto Part 1's era. We only got hints of possible futures of Two Blue Vortex throughout the series so far. So there's a lot of futures we as an audience have not even seen or wouldn't even believe were possible outcomes. If there are infinite possible futures, that means anything can or will happen. The only restrictions will be decision points and the amount of futures in which something occurs. So there is a layer of probability in play as well. Kashin Koji is using basic probability to determine which direction the timeline can go in. Seeing multiple possible futures is pointless unless the present is heading into that direction, or you can also engineer an ideal future you want by manipulating variables in the present. Koji in chapter 13 breaks this down very perfectly. It's not an absolute thing, but in many possible futures, Kawaki gets devoured by the Shinju and the planet dies, meaning that there is a high probability of the darkest timeline happening. It's not absolute, but the chance is very high. And because Boruto was informed of this prior to Jura's creation, there was also a chance of stopping him before the Shinju ever came into existence. However, as Kashin Koji pointed out in Chapter 13's flashback, in most possible futures, there were divine tree people. So let's say, for example, we have 4 timelines, and we'll just say that this is a sample representing infinite possible futures. Timeline 1, 2, and 4 lead to the birth of the Shinju. But timeline 3 diverges from the other timelines because the birth of the Shinju is prevented. Boruto wanted something similar to timeline 3 to happen in between chapters 1 through 4 of Two Blue Vortex. He wanted Code to lead him to the Ten Tails and kill it before Jura was ever created. But because timelines 1, 2, and 4 had Shinju in it, it made the probability of timeline 3 coming into existence very low. Not to say that it couldn't have happened, but it was very unlikely for it to happen. So Koji looked into many of Boruto's futures and tried to find jutsu that would serve his agenda of preventing the darkest timeline. Boruto never stopped training as a shinobi even during his years in exile as a rogue ninja because Sasuke in Two Blue Vortex Chapter 5 told him to keep training and build upon what he has already learned. So why not exploit infinite possible ideas for new techniques for Boruto to come up with under Sasuke's advice just prior to him getting turned into a tree? Koji saw a possible future 6 years after the events of Boruto Part 1. In this possible future, Boruto created his own space-time ninjutsu to compensate for losing that ability with his Karma Seal. He based it and named it after Minato's Flying Raijin technique. While they do work similar in premise, they are completely different jutsu. Minato uses a Flying Raijin ceiling pattern to move around, while Boruto embeds his own chakra into metal objects and uses that to move from location to location. He also uses symbols to distinguish these different locations. It's not a perfect technique as Boruto needs to really concentrate to pull it off, and sometimes he even needs assistance from Kashin Koji's steam toads to pinpoint specific location before teleporting. But Koji leveraged this technique from this potential future to decrease the probability of the darkest timeline. Boruto can save himself and others from getting killed, meaning the more people survive, the more possibilities there are in preventing the Shinju from winning. Boruto gaining intel from these futures will ultimately destroy these possibilities from ever occurring, but it also leaves room for the timeline to branch out into new possibilities. And I think there was more to Koji telling Boruto that Jura was going to kill him than we originally thought. Yes, an obvious benefit of knowing Jura is going to kill him is that Boruto can avoid getting killed. But Boruto knowing this information also changes the timeline in some ways as well. Naturally, as humans, we want to solve problems, and given enough time, we can make that happen. There's nearly no problem on this planet that can't be solved with enough time, effort, and resources. Koji himself in Chapter 13's flashback said that Boruto simply knowing this information has already started to change the future. And it's true because Boruto should have never been able to defeat Hidari or Code with a Rasengan Uzuhiko. 16-year-old Boruto just shouldn't know techniques that he invented while he was in his 20s. Hidari's destruction ultimately led to the future where Boruto survived past Chapter 12 and 13. The way I see it, there's only two possible avenues I could see Boruto realistically killing Jura, and one of those is with the Rasengan Uzuhiko itself. In Chapter 3 of Two Blue Vortex, we learned that the Rasengan Uzuhiko was a variant of the original Rasengan that incorporated the planet's chakra and rotation itself. It's a power that can rush through the target's body and never disappears, just like how the planet itself never stops rotating, and eventually it will kill the target. Boruto in Two Blue Vortex Chapter 11 says that the Uzuhiko utilizes both the planet's rotation and orbit, and since it's using the planet's chakra and not his own, the longer he charges it, the greater the amount of damage it can do. So theoretically, this could be the strongest variant of the Rasengan of all time. If Boruto charges it for a very long time without interruption, this could actually pose a serious threat. The only issue with this technique, its main weakness, is creating a scenario for that to happen. And we saw the differences when Boruto used it against Code and when he used it against Hidari. Boruto charged the Uzuhiko for less than a minute against Code and simply paralyzed him. Now, if Boruto didn't release the Uzuhiko, Code would have died a very slow and painful death. When Boruto charged the Uzuhiko against Hidari, he literally created a miniature vortex that destroyed most of Hidari's body. He also used the Uzuhiko prematurely in Chapter 12, meaning if he charged it longer, Hidari's entire body would have been destroyed. So if the Uzuhiko has no limits, and Jura is distracted by other fighters, then Boruto could reach the heights of Jura's power with this technique alone and kill him. It would just have to be done in such a strategic way that Jura just wouldn't see it coming. The Uzuhiko may not be Boruto's only chance. While the Uzuhiko presents many advantages, there are also disadvantages as well. If Boruto decided to fight Jura by himself, the Uzuhiko is not going to save him. Jura is not going to sit there and let Boruto charge up that much power to kill him. And even if Boruto fights Jura with a team, Boruto's allies need to be very capable in distracting Jura long enough for the Uzuhiko to be strong enough to kill Jura. Since Koji can see into infinite possible futures, there may be more techniques that Boruto has learned for his eventual fight with Jura. But I can imagine, just like how the Uzuhiko and Flying Raijin have their flaws in their design, these other techniques may have flaws as well and require specific circumstances to be really effective. Boruto may have another trick up his sleeve that Koji is banking on to specifically kill Jura, and that's why Boruto is so valuable to Koji. But it will still require a team of capable allies to help Boruto and give him time to actually pull it off. I believe the person who should kill Jura is Boruto. It has to be Boruto. This entire time, it's been something that's been brought up again and again that Jura is going to kill him. If Boruto manages to overcome this obstacle, the timeline would change indefinitely, and it goes along with one of the reoccurring themes of the Boruto franchise, overcoming predestined fate. Jura is the ultimate test of Boruto's character. He is a rogue ninja hated by all because they think he killed Naruto, yet through his actions, if he can get the same people to trust him enough to work with him, he may be able to make a huge difference and change the future positively.